third as we get ready now for the 5,000 meters. There are the records, and there is Mercy Chelangat of Alabama, who finished second in the 10,000 meters on Thursday night.
This is more of Chelangat's race, really. This is where she really kind of has a second and third gear when it comes to her speed. On Thursday in the 10,000, that's the most we've ever seen her challenged in a race all year. And it was interesting to see how the mental part of that played into it. She had told me that she just really wants to stay mentally focused throughout this entire championships, doubling back from the 10 to the 5. Not an easy feat.
24 athletes qualified to be here, 12 from the West Regional and College Station 2 weeks ago, and 12 from Jacksonville, Florida, the East prelim 2 weeks ago, and they're just running a final. There were no prelims here, so these are the athletes that qualified, many of them doubling back from the 10,000 meters contested earlier, some moving up from the steeplechase. And they just added in the points for A&M from the high jump. So that cuts the lead to 13 points that USC has over Texas A&M. Just thought I would update that as I just saw it flash up. And amazingly, Mercy Chelangat not going immediately to the front. So we will step aside now that they've got this underway. And we'll go downstairs to John Anderson.
Thank you, Dwight. Yeah, that one's underway. I'm here with Tyra.
Thrown in half and half, and I just went tumbling. Cars were honking. They were like, boo. And I was like, yeah, so for like 3 or 4 days, even leading up to this, even when we came here, I still had my ankle taped. So that's why I said, like, you have to get over minor injuries, and training was very minimum. So I'm happy with my score. It's still my second best score, even though high jump and long jump didn't go great, and that proved to me that I'm a consistent multi, and I don't need to do something amazing in those two events to do good. So that's one thing I'm really proud of myself for.
So you get like 3 or 4 days, you don't have to put any KT tape on. What do you do between now and the Olympics?
Well, the first week and a half is going to be treatment and rest. Season takes a toll on all of the NCAA athletes, and then we have to go into the professional world where they get a lot of break between meets. So yeah, it's really just recovering mentally and physically, and the physically is going to be the most taxing. That's the most to get back.
I think you got a season eligibility left. You want to come back. Do we know what's happening there?
Anything can happen. I mean, I love A&M with all my heart. And also, like, I mean, I'm ready to see Tyra outside of NCAA. So I'm torn. We don't know. We never know.
Well, if it's just this one or a career, it's been brilliant and wonderful to watch, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Tyra Gittens. Hey, Jill, and she says 228 is just fine.
What'd she say?
She told me 225.
She said you were going to go 225, and you were 228.
I was supposed to, and then I had an exhausting high jump session.
That's right. I'm on your side, totally.
I got
and
you.
with you the whole way.
Get out of here.
I got you. I got you.
Jill, back to you.
All right, back at the 5,000 meters. When they come around to the start-finish line, they will have 8 laps remaining. That is senior Whitney Orton of BYU, who has kind of been out there on her own all along. It's about a 15-meter gap right now, 12 to 15-meter gap. No one else going with her.
BYU has just made a great showing in the longer races today. And I had a great talk with Whitney earlier, and she's a really good 1,500-meter runner, and she said that her semifinal that she ran on Thursday really plays into the mental part of this 5,000. And it's just the passion that she has to get better every single time that she steps out onto this track. And, you know, she's done a really nice job in this first mile. This race kind of gets broken down into thirds a little bit, Dwight. And this first mile that they've run, all you want to do here is just really establish a really good goal pace, positioning, and Whitney decided to just take it out. Now, if you're in this backpack, you're sitting there thinking she's going to end up coming back with us or to us. So they're just going to keep her in their striking range and then see if in the second mile that they go into, where the intensity usually starts to pick up, and if you're in the lead pack or the chase pack, this is where the mental part of this race really hits on how you're feeling. I've talked all season about the physical feeling of this 5,000, and there's two parts to that. In this race, in the second mile, you're like, how am I feeling? Am I tired? Am I hurting? Am I laboring? And then there's the psychological part of that, how you feel about how you feel physically, and being able to either make a move or stay at the pace you're at, or if you feel like you're going slow and you're hurting, how much can you really pick it up?
So Orton continuing to lead. When she comes around to the start-finish, it'll be 7 laps. In the chase pack, there's Ellie Hennis of North Carolina State and Joyce Camelli doubling back from the steeplechase earlier.
Mercy Chalangat's currently running 8th in the middle of that chase pack, right there in the all-maroon. She was second in the 10,000 2 days ago, but this race is one of her better races, and right now, bet that she is just staying patient and stalking the rest of these women like prey.
Direct your attention to the awards stand. Here is the presentation of awards for top finishers of women's high jump.
And we're used to seeing Chalangat kind of out front, starting to make a bit of a move there. She is the NCAA cross-country champ. That was at 8,000 meters. You mentioned second in the 10K, a huge performance at the SEC in winning multiple events there. And now, as she goes through here in the 5K, with her all the way is her brother, Vincent Kiprot, another Bama distance standout, and he cheers her, and he is with her and supports her every step of the way in the stands right now, vocal, watching his sister, pulling for her. I went over to him and I said, hey, do you want to come down and see your sister? And he said, no, thanks. I don't want to get in her spotlight. This is her time, and she should shine. It's really just a wonderful relationship between every brother and sister should get along this way, right? Because we hear so often it's the other way, and they get along so fantastic.
They've been amazing to cover all year, John, and Chalangat has now moved up into 4th, and you see that gap between Whitney Orton and that chase pack close.
Now Orton has been reeled back in. Hennis of North Carolina State is there now. Katie Wasserman of Notre Dame in 3rd place, with Chalangat now in 4th. It's like she just took the first mile plus and said, you know, I just want to stay within myself. I don't want to really challenge myself too much. It's not going that fast. I can handle this. And she, as you mentioned, she has more gears in the 5,000 than she does in the 10.
Yeah, her gears are insane. But this second mile, this is where the intensity starts to pick up. You saw that gap close, and this is where you've got to stay very active. You do. Everything starts to burn a little bit more, but this is where you maintain the threshold work, taxing the heart rate, and getting into that VO2 max. It gets quicker from here. There's a lot of pace shifting here that happens in this second mile going into the last mile of this race. But again, Mercy Chalangat has an absolute another gear on top of a gear when she runs this 5K.
So Chalangat now in control of the pace. Ellie Hennis, the senior from North Carolina State, right there. Then Katie Wasserman in the green of the Irish. Whitney Orton, who was leading out there by herself for so much of the first 3rd plus of this race, and now starting to drop a little bit. She's in 4th, but losing contact with the top 3.
You go back to the John McDonald Invitational that I've talked about a couple times this season with Chalangat, where she ran the 5K. And this last mile that they just went into, she ran 4:39 in the last mile of that event. She went 71, 69, 69, and 68. So she is right in her wheelhouse right now. The top 3 of this pack, in this last mile, this is where you actually really start to race. The physical and the mental start to come in together. How you feel physically, and if you're Whitney Orton, who is now starting to lose touch with these 3, you have to figure out where your answers can be. But these last 3 laps, this is where that speed endurance comes in. It's the mindset of how you simulate a race in practice. So a lot of these women, to close in these last 3 laps, they're doing a lot of repeat work. It's not really high mileage. It's lower volume and higher intensity. Things like repeat thousands, 5 to 7 of them at 3K pace with only like a minute and a half rest in between. A lot of cadence work, learning how to accelerate. Repeat 600s that are cut down. So you run a 600, and then the last 200 starts to, of each 400 starts to get quicker and quicker, and that's what helps with this turnover that you're starting to see from all 3 of these women right now going into these final couple laps. Everything's going to start to get faster, and this is where that speed strength training from all of those workouts start coming into play.
Let's step aside from this event for a moment and update you on the team scores. All the events have been concluded, including field events, except for the 4x400 relay and here in the 5,000. Neither USC or Texas A&M have athletes in this race, but they do have teams in the 4x4. But the most amount that you can possibly get in the 4x400 is 10 points. So there's no chance for Texas A&M to catch USC. So the women of Troy have clinched the national team title here in Eugene, Oregon, with this 5,000 meters yet to be concluded, and the concluding event of the meet, the 4x400 meter relay.
Now we have 3 other runners that have closed on the top 3 of the lead pack. And this is going to get interesting. This pace actually slowed down a little bit on that last lap, Dwag. They went 75 on that last lap. And then 76. That last 800 was 234. And this is where you want to look at their body. Look at what their arms are doing. Look at how their knees are lifted. Are they in front or are they back? Wasserman and Hines in the front look very relaxed. Where you don't want to be is where Chalangat is right now. She is boxed in on that rail, and Has from Minnesota is right there, and so is Haymock
of Stanford.
She is
there.
Where you don't want to be is in on that rail.
All right, they're coming up to the bell, and there were only 3 in a pack that looked like they were breaking away. Now there are 6 who are in contention to win this title.
Wow.
And score points. There is the bell. And Katie Wasserman leads them through. And the constant up in front has been Ellie Hennis, the senior from North Carolina State, there on Wasserman's shoulder. Chalangat still in contact, but faded back to 5th.
So they went 75, 74 on those last 2 laps. And so it's going to be, this is going to be a lot of them up being able to kick on this last 250. Wasserman from Notre Dame looking a little more fluid, but Hines makes the move with 200 to go.
She's been up at the front the entire time. Ellie Hines from North Carolina State. She was matching Chalangat, but Wasserman is not giving up. She cranks up her turnover, and it's a 2-woman race for the title. It just looks like Hennis has more in the tank than does Wasserman. Haas will get 3rd. Here comes Chalangat trying for 4th, but she's going to be beaten to the line.
By Jenna Magnus of Michigan State. Get nipped her for 4th.
15:28:05 for Hennis. About 10 seconds off the time she ran at the West Coast Relays earlier this year, which was the number 4 time in the country, and has been for the remainder of the season.
Ellie Hennis ran a really nice last 200. She stayed and moved perfectly.
Go, Ellie!
In that last curve, you want to stay as close into lane 1 as you can. She passed Wasserman right at about the 200-meter mark. Wasserman tries to answer and cover, but Hennis, look at the knee lift. This race was a little bit slower than I thought it would be. The last 4 laps were around 74, 75, so a lot of these women had a lot left in the tank. That's a huge win for Hennessy NC State.
So Chalanga got second in the 10,000, 5th here in the 5,000 meters for Alabama, the sophomore, and from Kenya as well. So the results are official. Hennessy of North Carolina State winning the 5,000 over Katie Wasserman, Bethany Haas, and then Jenna Magnus. We will be back with the concluding event, the 4x400 meter relay.